What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to talk to you today about something that I was thinking about. I could do a whole series on imposter syndrome and dealing with it, and I think we all suffer from it at a certain point and to certain degrees. And I would say that this is something that really, I don't know, consumes a lot of very new financial coaches. I also feel like it's one of those things where when I talk to people about why they're not producing videos or sending out newsletters or writing blog posts or articles or speaking or webinars or doing beta sessions with clients or doing real coaching sessions, the really big thing that comes up is suffering from imposter syndrome. And they may not be able to put it in those words, but it's, having some inadequacies, not being sure of your skill sets, whatever it might be. And imposter syndrome, like I said, can range from the extreme to the minimal, and there are a lot of different techniques, I think, to deal with imposter syndrome. But one of the more fundamental things that I think is the reason for imposter syndrome is the way we advertise ourselves, so the way we hold ourselves out to the public versus what we know we have as a capability. Let me put it this way: you may be presenting yourself as a financial coach. And the issue with that is you may say, hey, well, it might be retirement planning and budgeting and debt payoff and investments and blah, blah. And you can see all these things that a financial coach should talk about. And when you think about all these things as something you could talk about, and you know that maybe you're not great on retirement planning, right? Distribution strategies and drawdown strategies and investment returns and those types of things, or maybe you're really good at budgeting, right? Or maybe you're really poor at budgeting, but you really know life insurance, or you really know estate planning, or whatever it might be, right? There are these issues where some of these topics might be in green, and some of these might be red and off limits to you. And I think what it happens here is that we're advertising ourselves in the wrong way. We're presenting ourselves in the wrong way. And so what I would say here is, what are the topics? What are the areas you are most comfortable in? And especially when you're starting out as a new financial coach, just advertise those exclusively, right? So let's say, listen, I think one of the things that a lot of financial coaches generally are pretty good at is budgeting, because it's one of the first things that you have to do. You get your first job, and maybe some people just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. I certainly know I do. And, some people do zero sum budgeting, right? And when I got my first job, all I was doing is trying to pay my bills, and I wasn't really thinking about when the money was coming in. I was just kind of always triaging it. And along the way, you start learning, all right, now I have to pay my rent at this month, otherwise I get hassled, and then this is the due date for this. And you start things start to fall into place, and you start getting a rhythm, and you start maybe managing it and setting up bill pay and auto pay and all these other things, and right, and you start to figure out how budgeting works, and you internalize that, and you become really good at it. So I find a lot of people, especially people new to financial coaching, kind of have budgeting down, at least their technique for budgeting. Not every technique, because there's a multitude of them. But what you might want to do is just advertise what you're really comfortable with and say, hey, I'm a financial coach that focuses on your first budget, right? As a new hire or someone new to the workplace, this is what I focus on. Instead of just being confused and just kind of throwing checks out to vendors and paying bills willy-nilly, right? I can help add some structure to that. I can kind of walk you through the mindset shift from going from willy-nilly to organized. And so you might want to just advertise that, because now if you're advertising only what you're really good at, right? Even though it might seem like a very, very small segment of the personal finance, arena, then you won't really suffer from imposter syndrome, because you're not expecting people to say, hey, can I talk about retirement? Something that you might, get warned off on, right? Or be fearful of, right? You're not advertising Medicare or, Medicare information or Social Security claimant strategies or whatever it might be, or handling a divorce, right? All sorts of things where you might be like, oh, listen, I don't know anything about that. And that's where I think a lot of imposter syndrome comes from, is that we're worried about getting ambushed with a topic that we don't know about. And so I think it's partially at the very beginning, mismanaging how we're marketing ourselves, how we're presenting ourselves. And what I would say is, it may seem very niche, it may seem very focused, it may seem very limited in the type of financial coaching that you're doing, but just find that one thing that you're really comfortable on. And I'm not saying that you are the greatest expert on it ever, but if there was one personal finance topic that you feel like is in your wheelhouse and that you wouldn't shy away from, or that might come up in a conversation and be like, might light you up, because you'd be like, oh, I want to talk about that. Maybe it's FI, or maybe it's fire, or maybe it's, investing, or whatever it might be, right? It can be any of these things, or just the money mentality or abundance mentality. Maybe it's more specific about the debt snowball, right? You could be a financial coach that just focuses on a debt pay down strategy, right? Just kind of answering and walking people through the debt snowball process, right? So just advertise that. Let's not try to bite off more than we can chew here. Just focus on the thing that you're most comfortable with. And I think that will help you minimize that imposter syndrome that a lot of us suffer from at the very beginning. So hopefully that helps. Match up your comfort areas in personal finance with what you are advertising. All right. See you later.